Thank you and welcome to the Patriots 300 Level Podcast. My name's Kevin and I'm joined by my co-host Eric. Welcome back after a few week hiatus for our 30th episode. This week we'll be previewing the upcoming NFL draft, which starts next Thursday, April 28th. As a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pat's 300 Level Pod for up-to-the-minute updates and commentary and news of the day. So before we get started, Eric, I think one of the first things I think we wanted to kind of just address, and this is a Patriots podcast, but we are Boston sports fans. First and foremost, not so much for every single team now, but I just it wouldn't feel right if we didn't kind of address the Jerry Remy Don Orsillo kind of issue that Nesson and Red Sox had last night. And I know we've all been on Twitter today and last night blasting the Red Sox organization for this. And I think we really need to kind of just talk about this first before we kind of get into the draft, because this is something that's kind of near and dear to, I think, both of our hearts. I'll just say I'm completely appalled, disgusted, and not really shocked, because this isn't the first time they've done this, by just the whole Red Sox organization from top to bottom. This is something that is their MO. It's something that isn't surprising that it happened, because they do it all the time. They did it with Terry Francona. They call him a drug addict. They did it with a whole bunch of other people when they kick him out the door. And the fact that what they came out today and said, it just doesn't smell like the truth. And it just, every single thing that this ownership has done has made me like them less and less and less, and hate them more and more and more. And even though they've won 4 World Series since they've been here, I hate their guts, and I hope they sell the team. So until John Henry and Sam Kennedy are gone from this organization, Linda Pizzuti, and even that SVP that I had to clarify that she was an SVP, not a VP, until they're gone, I am never, ever supporting the Red Sox ever again.
Yeah, it just absolutely sickened me yesterday when I saw that. And I'm kind of glad Don didn't take the high road with it, because they threw him under the bus in 2015, where Red Sox had terrible ratings because they had back-to-back last place finishes 3 times in the previous 4 years, even though there was a miraculous World Series mixed in. But they tried to throw him under the bus for the bad ratings, when it was actually just them putting a terrible product on the field. And Don was beloved by everyone in Red Sox Nation. I know for me, I started following Red Sox end of 2001, started every single game from about 2002 to about 2008, 2009, every inning of every game except the late night game. So I pretty much every night in the summer, I was listening to Don and Jerry. And the way they just threw him under the bus, kicked him out of here, was just disgusting for me at the time. And that's when, for me, my first love was the Boston Red Sox, baseball in general, and even more than the Patriots. And when they kicked him out of town, that, along with the Lester, what they did to Lester right around that same time, kind of just got me to start not liking them as much. I still was always a Red Sox fan no matter what, but that's when I started to lose my love for them. And then everything that's gone on ever since then, the past 7 years, we don't have to get into too much details, but that kind of made me lose more love in them as time went on. And then I was texting, I believe you and a couple other people a couple weeks ago after the Xander Bogaerts negotiations came out, how if the Red Sox lose Xander Bogaerts this offseason and then Rafael Devers next offseason, where 3 years ago they had 3 of the best young players in baseball, Mookie Betts, Rafael Devers, and Xander Bogaerts, all under the age of 30, all under the age of 28. You lose all 3 of them without getting much in return. I really thought that was going to be the final straw for me for following them. They have the potential to be the biggest payroll in baseball. But then what they did to Don Orsillo yesterday, I think that was the final straw for me. And I've since moved to San Diego for work, and I'm close to the Padres. Padres were always my second favorite team growing up, so I've been rooting for them the past couple of years. But I think after last night, the Padres are now my number 1 team.
It was just completely, and I was done with them before. Everything they've done, from even everything you mentioned to what they did with Kirk and Callahan, and just everything. It's just
even Dave Dombrowski. Dave Dombrowski brought them a World Series championship. He did exactly what he's done his whole career, what they told him to do. He brought them a World Series. Then the next year they have an off year. They go around 500. They kick him out the door.
And then they start the allegations where he was having illicit affairs inside of the organization while working. So, and maybe it was true, but this is always the dirty laundry that gets aired afterwards by them because they want
Terry Francona, all the dirty laundry after they kicked him out the door.
Kurt Schilling, every single person. So, again, we don't want to get hung up too much on this because this is a Patriots podcast and not a Red Sox podcast. But it just wouldn't have felt right if I just didn't kind of discuss this at first, just because of how disgusting it was by them. And I will never watch a single inning of them until they sell this team willingly.
And then just one thing I just want to say is the two things that, if you were to tell me 20 years ago when the Henrys and ownership group bought this team, that over the next 20 years, they'll bring you 4 World Series championships for a team that hadn't won in the previous 80 plus years. But at the end of 20 years, you're not going to like this team anymore. I don't think anyone would believe that. That's just how unthinkable this really is. And then how just they own the Boston Globe, they own Nesson, they pretty much essentially own all the reporters in town and all the news media. So they're having all of them, the Chad Finns of the world, Tony Mazes, Lou Merlonis of the world, trying to defend them for why, or Tom Cairns, this is more on Don Ursillo. Why would Don Ursillo try and take away from Remy when it was actually all on the Red Sox?
Yep. And not to forget that they basically, even though they don't own WEI, they basically run WEI because of all the money that they're pumping, that's being pumped in by the Red Sox. So they want Kirk and Callahan going, they get rid of them. They want someone else. They want, what's his name? The guy that worked at NBC Sports, Evan Drellick. They want him going. He's going. Yeah. So it's just disgusting how much power they have. And they try and control the narrative. And, it's people need to start standing up, and they got to realize why they're hated. They're the most hated ownership in this whole city, and that's not even you would think the Jacobs would be.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
But the Henrys are completely out of touch with this whole city, with the whole fan base, and it's just disgusting. And I think we could just leave it at that and kind of get into
one analogy I saw that I just think we should leave with is, imagine if the Patriots did that, where after Gino Cappelletti passed away, if they did the same thing to Gil Santos, the Boston Globe, Henry would have the Boston Globe igniting Kraft on fire for what he did. Granted, Kraft would never do that because he's a great owner, but that's just an analogy that we would never see that.
Yep. It's just, but now you have,
and they're not even as beloved as Don and Jerry.
Yep. So. But on the other instance, now you have the Henrys. They'll try and dig up any dirt they can on the Patriots, try and get rid of this news cycle. So it's just disgusting with them. Going into the NFL draft, though, since this is a draft podcast for today, what we're kind of going to do is not kind of highlight every single position, because obviously that would take too long. It's not going to be of note for everyone, and no one's going to care about every single position. So what we're going to do is really kind of highlight what the most kind of top positional needs that the Patriots have going to this draft, who are some targets of them, and then kind of have some background on that, and then kind of go into our mock drafts, see who we kind of picked, and then some kind of news around the NFL.
And just to clarify, the mock drafts is who we think the Patriots are going to get, not who we want, unless yours
kind of
might align more. Yeah. Okay.
So they kind of both align the same sort of way. So diving right into this, I'll kind of list what the kind of positional groups we kind of thought was the biggest need, and we'll kind of go into each of them. So I think we kind of talked about this last episode. Defensive line, they really need that interior defensive line presence. They don't have anyone to kind of stop the run anymore. Linebacker, even though this may not be as big of a need, if you actually really look into it, they still may need that one solid linebacker. Cornerback, that kind of speaks for that. We don't have to really discuss that. That's really needed. Safety, this one, if you look at the team, they've got a million safeties, but they don't really have any backfill for McCourty, and he's on his last year here, and he kind of goes year to year lately. So that may be a position of need. Offensive line is definitely a need based on who knows who's going to be the tackle after this year. Is Trent Brown even still going to be here? Because basically after this 1 year, he can be gone. Is
Isaiah Wynn's contract
going to be here? Probably not, because they don't really doesn't seem like they're too fond of him, and I don't think any of us are. And even the guard positions for that as well. Wide receiver, it's not as big of a need year one, so like this upcoming year. But like we said last podcast, they don't have any wide receiver signed past 2023. So that they need that developmental piece for Mac Jones, have some sort of continuity with the wide receiver group. And those are the big ones. We are going to kind of address one possible quarterback that may replace Jarrett Stidham. And this is more of kind of a pipe dream for Eric than anything else, but we will touch on him as well. All right, so kind of diving right into it. First, kind of positional group, defensive line. I know there's kind of one big binky that the two of us have. Jordan Davis, why don't you give some kind of background to him? 6'6", 340 from Georgia, big boy. Again, I'll have you kind of describe most of these players coming up.
Yeah, Jordan Davis is who I want the Patriots to get. I doubt he's going to be available. I think I was hoping that his combine wouldn't perform great, so that he might fall a little bit, but he ran a 4.7840, which is faster than Patrick Mahomes at 6'6", 340. He has essentially Ted Washington's body, but runs as good as a linebacker, tight end, quarterback, fast quarterback. I'm just imagining pairing him with Barmore inside and then having Judon on the outside and then mixing in some edge players. Is that defensive line would just cause absolute havoc. I'm not going to go too much into him just because I don't think he's going to be available unless they trade up, but I think Bill would utilize his skill set phenomenally. I think the only concern or some of the concerns with him in college is his weight does fluctuate a lot. Mm-hmm. So I think some concerns are he might get out of shape and might not be able, he might essentially be Albert Haynesworth after Albert Haynesworth got his massive contract. So those are just some concerns, but he has so much potential given his size, his athleticism. So we'll have to see.
Yep. And I know with him, with that weight kind of issue, there were times where he got 360, 370. They really like him to play at 340, though, that combine weight that he had. That's where he's most kind of effective and doesn't kind of wear down as much. Next defensive lineman, same team, Devontae Wyatt, Georgia. Yep. He's 6'2", a little bit smaller, 6'2", 307. He's kind of more in that Barmore type of sizing than Davis really is, right?
Yeah. He is an interior lineman that can play outside on a 3-4. He does remind me a little bit. I don't know if this is a great comparison, but for me, I've always thought of him a little bit like Ty Warren, classic Patriot in a 3-4, where he can play edge, can line up at tackle if needed. He can play both inside, outside. He's a 3-down lineman. He has some good size. So I think he was also on that Georgia defense, which was just a historic defense. So I think he would be a good fit as well.
And he'd be a better kind of fit than a Dietrich Wise, you would say, right?
I agree. That's why I think if the Patriots were to get him, they would kick Wise to be only a situational player, or possibly to your hoping they'd get rid of him.
They're never getting rid of him. He's going to be that Patrick Chung. He's going to be a forever Patriot because Bill loves his wingspan. And, I don't hate Dietrich Wise. I hate how he's used.
Yep. No, I agree.
He's a very good situational pass rusher. He's a very good 4-3 defensive lineman.
Yep.
He's not big enough or strong enough to hold up the edge on a 3-4.
I agree. And that's where I think if they were to go with Wyatt, Wyatt could play that 3 on the 3-4, or if they were to play some 4-3, he could play the other tackle next to Barmore, and then you could bring in Wise on the other edge.
Yeah. Next one, DeMarvin Leal, Texas A&M, 6'4", 290. Anything you got on him?
He's a tackle who can play edge as well. He's a little smaller than Wyatt. He's a couple inches taller, but about 20 pounds lighter in the weight column. But he is another person that can fit that role. I think he might be a little undersized just on the weight column, but that is something that he could bulk up a little bit once he gets to the NFL. But he is someone that is versatile like Wyatt, where he can play both spots.
Okay. Anyone else you want to kind of give into quickly, or want to move on to the next group?
Yep, just a couple more. Joshua Pascal from Kentucky. He's 6'3", 268. So he has more of that edge role, but he was a captain, was a multi-year starter, and he can play all across the line as well. He did play some tackle, even though he is a little undersized. He did play pretty well in the SEC at tackle and is an edge as well. And he is a 3-down lineman. And then one other one is Travis Jones, defensive tackle from UConn. He's more just the typical defensive tackle, 2-down lineman playing in the run. He's the best interior player outside of Davis in the draft. He's likely to go second round, maybe third round. So he might just be someone that, given the Patriots' deficiencies in run defense, they might target. I don't think so, just since they do have Henry Anderson coming back, Lawrence Guy, but that might be someone that they might consider.
Okay. Moving next, linebacker position. I think this one he probably isn't going to be there for them. Devin Lloyd, Utah, 6'3", 237. He's kind of a different really mold than the typical Patriot linebackers. And if what they're saying this offseason, where they're trying to get kind of smaller, quicker, faster, kind of line up with the rest of the NFL, this would be the fit for it. Although he lately in the mock drafts, he's been going anywhere from 10 to really 14, 15, where back a few months ago, he was more in the 20s, where you thought maybe he could have a chance. But anything else you had to kind of say on
yeah, no,
on
I
him,
think
just in
you pretty
case he
much
does fall?
Yeah. He's big, so he is 6'3". He did play inside linebacker, but more the new style inside linebacker where he's a faster. You're not going to see the Ted Johnsons of the world, the 6'5", 265s at linebacker anymore in the NFL. So he's more that new type of inside linebacker. But I don't think he's going to be available past 15, let alone 21.
Okay, the next kind of two, both again from Georgia, where I think if you kind of draft anyone from Georgia, you're going to have a good kind of draft this year, at least on defense. Nakobe Dean, he's 5'11", so a little bit kind of smaller, not really their prototypical size for linebacker. 229, so he's actually really kind of small. He's almost the same type of size as Kyle Duggar. Shorter, I think.
Shorter,
same weight. I think Duggar is 225 or 230. So, what would you have to say on him?
No, I think he's a good prospect. He plays sideline to sideline. He also was inside linebacker, but more that new prototypical inside linebacker, smaller, faster. He ran a 4.5 240. I don't know if he's going to be available at 21 either. I think he has more of a shot than Lloyd. I know a lot of mock drafts at the Patriots hoping that they go with Dean, but I think he's going to be around that 17 to 23 range. So right around the upper edge of where the Patriots are. But I think he would fill a need on the Patriots. Walker is more of the traditional run stuffing inside linebacker. 6'4", 241. He is pretty fast. He ran a 4.5 240. But he's more probably looking to go in the second round. So he might be someone that they might target if in the second round, or if they were to trade back or trade up from the third to second. So right around that edge. But is more the run stuffing linebacker.
Okay. And it's kind of the last guy I think I got my list. Troy Anderson, Montana, 6'3", 243, similar size to Quay Walker. I'm not sure how his speed lines up. Can maybe kind of, is he that same type of, is he more of a slower linebacker than Walker, or how does he fit into this type of scheme?
I think there's a pretty good shot that he's going to be a New England Patriot. He was 6'3", 243. He ran a 4.42 240.
Oh, wow.
In college, 4.4 240. In college, he initially was running back and linebacker, two-way player, then transitioned to quarterback, was all conference at quarterback, then transitioned back to linebacker and was all-American at linebacker in Division I AA. He's fast. He's the typical person that Bill loves, where he's played all over the field. He has that knowledge of what offenses do, since he did play quarterback and running back. He's fast. He hasn't played linebacker as much and was at a lower competition, but he is projected to go in the second round. So he might be someone where, sort of like Duggar, where Bill sees some value in, and even if he doesn't excel that first year, he can develop into someone. So he's someone that I think the Patriots are really gonna, if he's available where the Patriots want, I think that he might be a good fit for them.
Okay. Anyone else at linebacker you want to kind of give any overviews, or you want to move on to the next group?
Just a couple. One, Christian Harris from Bama. He's projected to be a second round pick. 6 feet, 226. He's a 3-year starter for Nick Saban. Ran a 4.4440. So he's a little faster. He has the years of experience, so he might be someone that the Patriots might target as well. Channing Tindall from Georgia. He was a 1-year starter, but he has a lot of athleticism. 4.4740, 42-inch vertical, 6'2", 230. So it has some size. He's projected to be a second round pick as well, and it was on that just amazing Georgia defense. And then last one, my favorite, Diego Faget from Navy, ran a 4.6840. He was a 3-year starter, though, run stopper, projected to be a special teams player, early down linebacker. And he was one of the 2 MVPs from the East-West Shrine Bowl. And we all know Bill loves the Navy connection. So he might be someone that the Patriots target late in the draft or as undrafted free agent.
Yep. I know you love him. And Bill has been kind of prone to picking Navy players. He has Cardona.
Yep.
He had
Malcolm Perry.
I think there was one other.
There was the guy that was an actual in the Navy and then came back. He was the fullback / defensive tight end / defensive end that now plays for the Texans. I can't think of his name. Quinsonberry?
Okay. Might be. All right, moving on. Cornerback. Again, corner is going to be a big kind of need for them, at least to have one more kind of developmental piece that they could get away with this year, who they have right now. If Malcolm Butler kind of plays up to how he played his last year being active, Miles Bryant might take another step forward. I really like him. He's a little undersized. Jonathan Jones will be back, and then Jalen Mills is serviceable. And then Sean Wade may take another step forward.
And then there's the guy they signed from the Texans. I'm blanking on the name.
Yeah, Terrence Mitchell.
Yep.
But he's nothing special. But you would still like to have that kind of developmental piece. So I think kind of the first kind of cornerback we won't really talk about would be Sauce Gardner. No possible chance of him getting.
I wish, but there's no shot. He didn't allow a touchdown.
He's likely going top 10. We won't talk about him. First one was a very good kind of candidate for the Patriots if available. Would be Trent McDuffie. He's Washington's 5'11", 193. Really good player, 3-year starter, first team Pac-12. Not really the biggest kind of corner, but he kind of makes up for it with his compete level. I played a lot of zone. And a lot of people say he's the best zone corner in the draft. He projects like he could play man, but we haven't really seen it. So I'm not sure if you have any kind of else that you would want to add on him.
Yeah, another thing that why he appeals to the Patriots and for the way that it's looking like their defense is going to shake up is he has played both man and zone. He was better at zone. They played more zone, but he has been able to play both. And he's also played both slot and corner and slot and outside, and he was good. And he also is a skilled tackler. A lot of times for cornerbacks, defensive backs, you don't see people willing to make tackles. J.C. Jackson, Malcolm Butler were 2 people that actually were pretty decent tacklers. And he's someone that is a pretty good tackler. He's not afraid to shy away from that. So that's why I think he seems like a possible good fit for the Patriots there.
Yep. I think that's the other thing I forgot to mention too, with the way that their scheme is also lined up. The corners have to be able to tackle in this defensive scheme. That was another thing I forgot to mention with them. Khair Elam out of Florida, if 6'1", 191. What do you got on him?
He's pretty fast. He's a 4.39 40, so he's not like the Tyreek Hill speed, but he is pretty fast for this cornerback group. He is a jammer, and he's someone that can make plays. The one thing that does concern me I think it's unfair to him, but the Patriots haven't had a ton of success drafting Florida players. Duke Dawson was probably one of the worst picks they've ever made. He was a second-round cornerback. He flopped. Chad Jackson was a flop at wide receiver. So that's the
Aaron
one
Hernandez
thing that,
killed a man
yeah,
or
but
two
I mean, on the
or
field
three.
or three. So it's just, granted, most of those were Urban Meyer players except for Duke Dawson, but also second round cornerbacks haven't been a great fit for the Patriots
Yeah.
either. But that's the only thing that concerns me with him. Yeah.
All right. Andrew Booth Jr. from Clemson. 6 foot 194. What do you got on him?
He's someone that he only started 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
He did play well, but he did get beat sometimes as well. He shown that he has a lot of talent. Played both man and zone. He played in a complex defense where he did see a lot of different looks as well, which can correlate well to the Patriots defense. But I think the thing with him is, since he didn't see as much action as a starter, and when he did show he has a high ceiling, but he also might have a low floor as well, in my opinion. I know a lot of people haven't been saying that, but he did get beat sometimes, and tough to see only a 1 year starter how that transitions to the NFL.
All right. Anyone else you'd like to kind of discuss?
Yeah, I think just a couple ones. Jalen Petrie from Baylor. He ran a
Mm-hmm.
4.6 40. He's more of a slot corner, but he was pretty much their MVP on their defense. He was one of the main reasons for success. He's slated to be late first, early second, so probably not outside the page, probably not in the Patriots realm, but he might be someone that, if they were to draft him, maybe the Patriots are looking to move Jonathan Jones to one of the outside corners, and you can have him as your slot corner. Just a couple quick ones. Zion McCollum from Sam Houston State, really fast, ran a 4.33 40, 6'2", 199. He did play a lower competition, I believe D1 AA, but he was a ball hawk like JC Jackson, a lot of interceptions, made a lot of plays. He's projected to be around a third round pick. And then just two more that really intrigue me is Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati. Different spelling, Coby. He was a 4 year starter at Cincinnati, opposite Sauce. 6'1", 193. They did play zone cornerback, but a lot of scouts are interested in him and they like him because he's more of a gym rat, where he's always they're raving that he's always the first one in, last one out, which is something the Patriots like. And if, based on how the Patriots are assembling their defense, it looks like they're going to be more zone in the coming years at least. And then one last one is Josh Joby from Bama. He ran a 4.5 40, 6'1", 194. He was projected to be a first round pick coming into this season. However, he had a nagging foot injury and his production did slip a little bit. But he might be someone where he's projected to go in third, fourth round, and Bill might see some value where his decrease in production might have actually been due to the injury, and he might think that taking a flyer on him, he might be able to get that first round value.
Is he the one? Is he the corner with the Liz Frank injury?
The what?
Liz Frank.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. Moving on. Safeties.
Yep.
Again, like I said, they've got a million safeties on this team.
Yep.
And even Miles Bryant, it can be considered a safety too.
Yep.
Slot corner safety. But again, they don't have really that that free safety kind of position right now to backfill McCourty. Jalen Mills possibly, but I think is what everyone thought what he was signed for, was to eventually replace him. So maybe he's still in there. But there's a couple guys out there that, in case they are trying to plan for his backfill, and this would be more of the Patriots kind of style, prepare 1 year early and have them ready for him when they take over after the next year. So first one, this one's definitely a kind of McCourty clone. Would be Daxton Hill from Michigan. 6 foot, even 192, ran a 4.38, fast, quick, plays safety, can play slot corner, even play a little outside corner as well. Really good coverage for a safety in there as well. And again, you get that Michigan connection where it seems like lately, the last couple of years of the Patriots, you got to look at kind of the schools that they're looking into, and Bama is a big one. Michigan lately now, they've been getting a lot of guys from Michigan. So that's just another connection there too. So anything else you want to add on him?
No, you pretty much covered everything. He's played all along the defensive back. He is a versatile player
Mhm.
where he's played box safety, he can play slot, he can play outside
Mhm.
corner, and the way this defense is shaping up, that's kind of perfect for that. I don't know
Yeah.
if they're going to go with him with the safety since there are other needs, but I could see
Mhm.
them doing that.
Okay. Next one, Jaquan Brisker, Penn State,
Yep.
6'1", 199.
Yeah, he's a very physical safety, more of the deep and box safety,
Mm-hmm.
projected to go in the second round. So he might be someone that they target. He ran a 4.4940.
All right. And then the kind of last one I think you wanted to talk about, Verone McKinley,
Yep.
Oregon, five. I think we have different weights and heights here, but one I saw is 5'10", 198. I think you get 5'11", 194. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. So he was very productive at Oregon.
mhm.
Coming into this year, there was a lot of hype about him. Actually, the last 2 years, Um, he didn't test well at the combine and pro day. I think he ran a 4.6540. So
Mhm.
he's projected to go a little lower, but he was very productive on the field. He has a high football IQ, able to diagnose plays really quickly. So that's something that Bill does like. So as a later
Mhm.
round safety, he might be someone that appeals to them. And then one other safety that I do have mentioned, Nick Cross from Maryland. He's projected to go right around the third round. Patriots did have several scouts at the Maryland Pro Day as well, but he ran a 4.3440, 6 feet 211. He's a box safety, but can play all across the defensive backfield. So he is versatile as well. So if they're looking for a safety in that third round range, he might be someone that they might target.
Yep. Yeah, I think with McKinley too, he's kind of known like a Rodney Harrison type, without as
Yeah.
big of a size of him. And he's known as the general. So I think that's kind of an interesting little tidbit on him. Next positional group, offensive line.
Yep.
Again, who knows what their line's going to look like in a year from now? They
Yep.
may have only kind of two of the five returning. So they really need to get younger here. But they do have some possibilities. Again, they have
Yep.
Haran, they have Kajust, which I think I don't know about you, but I'm a big kind of believer in Kajust as a
Mm-hmm.
developmental person. He's got very good feet. He's big, strong. He just needs more seasoning. He's very raw coming out. He was hurt. That's why if he had kind of more kind of seasoning, he may have been a little bit higher drafted. So kind of the first kind of group we'll go into are the kind of two tackles, kind of skipping the obvious ones, which they're not going to be able to draft. So that would be Neil, and that would be what am I blank his name? Agonway. I lost my spot in my thing. But so we're gonna go into the first person. So we can even forget about that. Trevor Penning,
Yep.
Northern Iowa, because he's not one of those first two. So
I like Penning a lot. I know a lot of mock drafts lately have the Patriots taking him at number 21. He's a big tackle, 6'6", 6'7", 325. I know you have him listed as 6'6". I have him as 6'7", based on the source I have.
yeah.
So right, like that Nick's a little shorter than Nate Solder, Trent Brown,
Mhm.
Sebastian Vollmer, but in that range. But he has a Logan Mankins toughness to him where he's someone that he's tough as nails and he's just going to run right through you. He's someone that based on his mentality, his sizing, he seems like just like a perfect Patriot.
Yep. The other person I was mentioning that they're not going to draft, there's Neil and Ekawanu
Hmm.
from NC State. He's going to be not available for them.
No.
Next one, Berard Raymond from Central Michigan. I think I was going to kind of talk a little bit about him.
Yeah.
He's kind of that prototypical Patriot as well. He's from Austria, actually. Started playing football as a wide receiver, then tight end in college. He added some weight, moved to offensive line, really improved this year at tackle. He does need to kind of improve on some of his technique and kind of bulk up a little bit more. 6'6", 303. He's going to go in the first, either late first or early second round. He kind of reminds me of that Sebastian Vollmer type.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because it's coming from Eastern Europe or whatnot, but that kind of developmental piece, I think how well he played even in his first couple of years of being a tackle, not naturally being a tackle, kind of shows that he might have some development there that would be good. So
that's
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say that's similar to Nate Solder as well, where he was a tight end and then he moved to a tackle in college, where he initially went to college as a tight end. So it is sort of like that mixed with Sebastian Vollmer too.
Yeah. Next one, kind of more of the guards. Kenyon Green, Texas A&M, 6'4", 325.
Yeah, he's a pretty good guard. I know some people have him going right around the Patriots since there is that guard need. He is a 3-year starter, which Bill does like players that have a lot of experience. So he might be someone that they might target.
Played a little tackle too, right?
A little bit.
Yep. Up going.
No, that was it pretty much.
Okay. Zion Johnson, your little baby there from BC. He's 6'2", 314. What do you think about him?
I think he's an interesting pick. He did start as a tackle 2 years at Davidson. He didn't start playing football until high school, and he was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school just because he didn't play much. So he is more that raw developmental type player, but played tackle 2 years at Davidson, then transferred over to BC. He moved to guard, and he was all BC's in the ACC, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so he was all conference at guard at BC. So he's someone that he does have that versatility playing at both tackle and guard. And since the Patriots do have that glaring need at guard, he might be someone that they might target. And since he did play pretty well, only played 1 year at guard, but he might be someone where you see potential and can go with that.
That makes sense. I think that you have a couple other ones you wanted to kind of go over. Dylan Parham, Memphis, 6'3", 311.
Yep. He was a 4-year starter at Memphis. He's projected to go right around the 2nd or 3rd round. He's a really great run blocker, and his pass blocking has gotten better as he's played. So he's someone like similar to Kenyon Green. He's played a lot, and he has that experience, and he's just gotten better as a pass blocker. So he might be someone that they might target as a day 2 pick. And then
Jerome Slayer.
Yep, he's 6'3", 321. He played guard, but that's where he's projected to go as a guard, possibly a right tackle. But he did play all 5 positions on the offensive line, which is something that Bill really likes. Someone, especially for offensive linemen, that versatility where he can play all around. So he's, I believe he's projected to be a day 2, maybe early day 3 pick, but he's someone else that they might target.
All right, and kind of the last positional group. Besides the quarterback, would be wide receiver. Again, this is really kind of tough to kind of project what the Patriots are going to do. They never really pick one high, other than N'Keal Harry being the first person, and obviously they picked the wrong one of all the bunch they could have picked. But this is a very deep draft, like they've been lately. And I forgot who it was saying this, but a lot of the reasons why they think that the wide receiver drafts have been very deep lately is because of Pop Warner and everyone getting more involved in football younger. So they're more used to football, will get more athletic and that sort of thing. Jameson Williams, obviously a very interesting name. He potentially could be still there for the Patriots based on his ACL injury. From what everyone's saying, more so now is he may not even make it to 21 though. A lot of teams aren't scared off by this ACL. And he may not make it past 15. He's that good of a talent. If he didn't have this ACL injury, he'd probably be around 10 to 12. 6'1", 179. He could have that deep ball. He's a little bit taller than Deshaun Jackson, just to kind of give an idea of what he kind of looks like. But he's got really game-breaking potential. He kind of prefers to room to work with, and his playing with strength isn't really a strong suit right now, but he can gain a little bit more weight and strength for the NFL. But he's got elite speed, elite separation, and would be a dominant playmaker for them. And I think if he wasn't hurt during the national championship game, Bama may have ended up winning that game. Anything you want to add on Williams at all?
Yeah, one other thing that would appeal to Bill is that he did play, he was a gunner on special teams, and
Mhm.
that was something that he actually liked. Kind of was a little detrimental because in the I can't remember which game. I believe it was one of the SEC playoff games where he got a targeting penalty and was ejected from the game
Mhm.
because of when he was a gunner. But he's just an exceptional talent, and I doubt he's going to be available at the Patriots. So I don't know. Also, given their other needs, I don't know if they'll go with the wide receiver first round, second round, because of also they got Devontae Parker. They have the tight ends with Smith and Henry, and they
Mhm.
do have some playmakers. Nelson Aguilar, they're going to be bringing back. Bourne, they have Jacoby Myers. But one thing that does interest me, why the Patriots might actually, I don't think they will, but why they might target wide receivers earlier than we're used to is given the explosion in the wide receiver free agent market or just contract market, where a couple of years ago they were making similar wide receivers, cornerbacks were making right around the same amount of money. Now wide receivers are getting quarterback money, which is insane. I don't think the Patriots will ever pay a wide receiver the equivalent of 30 million a year. So one way you can get around that is draft them early and utilize them for 4 or 5 years and then either trade them or get them on a manageable contract. So that might be one way where you're not going to pay a wide receiver $30 million when they're in free agency. But if you draft one and can get good utilization out of them while they're younger, that might be something why they might target them earlier than they're used to.
That makes sense. The one issue, though, now we're seeing is, especially with that draft class of N'Keal Harry's, is after
Yep.
their 3 years of service,
They
they
want the new
now want a new
contract.
contract. They're not going to play without a new contract. So we're
Yep.
seeing people Samuel, Metcalf,
AJ
McLaughlin,
Brown.
AJ Brown, all of them, except for
Yep.
Harry. Harry just wants to be traded because he wants out of here, but he's not getting any money.
Yep.
So that's the one problem, though, too. But the other option there too is even you get him for 3 years, maybe maybe you trade him for a first and something else. And you draft another guy, and you just keep that cycle where you trade him after 3 years, but you would have to hit every single time. That's just the one thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's similar to what what's his name? Ben Volen wants the Patriots to do with quarterback is draft a
yeah,
new quarterback every 5 years, which is insane. But
yeah, drafting wide receiver is a little bit easier, especially
yeah,
how much more talented are lately. But still, you have to hit, and they don't have a great
yep,
track record of that.
very true.
Moving on, Chris Olave, he's another kind of first rounder they could potentially target. I doubt, again, I don't think they would go for him. If they're going to be
Yeah.
going for a first round talent, Jameson Williams would be really, I think, the only one that they'd be hitting there.
Yeah.
Olave, though, he's quick, he's fast, 4.39 he ran. He's 6 foot 187. Got some good, really ball tracking skills. Is challenged a little bit against the bigger NFL corners, but his kind of best skill is getting open. And that is something that does fit the Patriots scheme where they want something to get open quickly. That is something that he could do well. I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything else on him at all.
No, I think you
All
pretty
right.
much covered it.
Next kind of receiver, I think this would be one they potentially could get. Again, though, I always am terrified of them picking someone in the second round as a receiver. So receiver, cornerback, I don't want them picking in the second round just because it's a kiss of death for them. But John Mechie, Alabama,
Yeah.
he's either a potential second or early third round pick. Again, he's another ACL injury. He's a good solid player. He's probably a number 2 wide receiver. He's not a number 1. Again, he's another type where he can kind of get bodied by some of those more physical corners. But he's a really good competitor. And I know Roger McCreary from Auburn said that Mechie was the hardest guy he's faced all year. But he would be a great addition to add with Mac Jones. And I think that would be something that would be really valuable for them. Anything you want to kind of add on him?
No, I agree completely. He's the one that, out of all the names being thrown out for wide receivers by Patriots Twitter and beat writers, I think he's the most realistic because he's more a late second, maybe third round pick. He has some potential, but he's not going to go as early as the other guys,
Mhm.
Jameson Williams. So he's someone you might get value in the second or third round.
Yeah. And another guy for the second or third round, more likely second is where they're seeing, would be Sky Moore.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll make it to 54, but well, he's from Western Michigan, 5'9", 195, so a little bit smaller. But he again very quick, led the country in broken tackles for a wide receiver. And he kind of reminds me of Golden Tate, just kind of smooth, quick, fast. A really good player. So it's just another one that to keep an eye out there for. Again, wide receiver market. Who the hell knows what they're going to do with them? So
there are two other wide receivers that I have on my list for late round picks or undrafted.
Slade Bolden.
Slade Bolden's the obvious. He's the slot receiver at Alabama. He was Mac Jones' slot receiver. He didn't test well. I think he ran like a 4.65. I'm trying to think. It was in that range.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't
very bad combine. When he was there, he did not look well.
And he didn't really wasn't extremely productive at Alabama either. I think last year he had 30 catches for 400 yards, something like that. So, but one thing we have seen the Patriots do before is in the 2020 draft free agency, when Jarrett Stidham was projected to be the starting quarterback, they signed Will Hastings, Auburn's slot wide receiver, who was Jarrett Stidham's slot wide receiver. So I could see them going after Slade Bolden as either a late round draft pick or undrafted, just to see maybe he has some chemistry with Mac Jones and he might be able to catch on as a slot receiver. So he's one. And then another one, which I think Bill would love, is Jared Bernhardt. He was, I believe, All-American lacrosse player at Maryland. And then he went over to Ferris State and was a quarterback and led them to a national championship. He's projected to be a wide receiver, not a quarterback, but he's someone that he's literally a mix of Julian Edelman and Chris Hogan, where Chris Hogan was a lacrosse player that transferred or went into the NFL as wide receiver. Julian Edelman was a college quarterback and then went into the NFL as a wide receiver. So we know Bill loves unconventional players, unconventional routes to the NFL, and he does love lacrosse. So he might be someone that maybe you pick late as a day 3 pick or undrafted, that maybe you try and find that next Julian Edelman.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. It's the last positional group, quarterbacks.
Second to last positional group. I'll say the last one.
All right, we're gonna go with Perry from Brown. EJ.
Yep, EJ Perry. This quarterback group in awful. General, it's terrible. So I don't really want to spend too much time going through it, because who really knows who they're going to get to replace Jarrett Stidham if they do at all. He's the only one that really appeals to me because he's projected to be a day 3 pick that might have some value. He's a local kid from Andover, went to Boston College, then transferred to Brown. And then while he was at Brown, he was a dual threat quarterback, running, throwing, won the Ivy League Offensive Player of the Year, and then was offensive MVP in the Shrine Bowl, East-West Shrine Bowl. Diego Forget was the defensive MVP in the East-West Shrine Bowl. Had a great combine. He's fast. I think he ran a 4.540 or 4.640.
Yep.
So he had similar combine numbers to Jacoby Myers. I don't think, some people are saying he might, if he was to play in the NFL, he will have to switch to wide receiver. Others are saying he still has the potential of being a quarterback. So he's someone with, given the Andover roots that Bill likes, because Bill went to Phillips Andover Academy, and Brown. He's a smart kid, is a dual threat. He might be someone that you might try and develop. So he's the only one I think is worthy at quarterback to even mention.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's had some family members too that are involved in the game as well. So
yeah, I think his dad was the coach at Brown, I believe.
I think so. It sounds, yeah. I think I might have been the uncle. Mm-hmm. And then also he played at BC as well. So he really stayed local here. Your last positional group that you want to hit on,
Last
Oh,
positional group is punter.
punters.
And there are several punters in the draft. There's a guy from Georgia. I'm blanking on his name. There's someone from Colorado State who are potential options. But
Mhm.
sticking with my guns since October, punter Matthew Areza from San Diego State, also known as the punt god. He was the Ray Guy Award winner, had an average 50 yards per punt. He had several 80-yard punts, several more 70-yard punts. So in the combine, he really impressed me. Where watching his highlight reels of either from San Diego State or just watching some of their games, he had more of the long line drive punts, but in the combine, he had those good hang time, high, just really good punts. And I think he's someone that he only punted once, or the last year, his junior year, which is his most recent year, was the only year he was punter. He went to San Diego State as a kicker. He was starting kicker as a freshman, sophomore. Then junior year, he became their punter out of necessity. And he's someone that he just has so much potential where that was his first year punting. If he gets more training, he might be even better than he was in college, which is saying something given how good he was his last year. And he is someone that I know it's unlikely, but he was a pretty good kicker at San Diego State. His accuracy would have to get better, but he might be someone that could develop into a two-way player where he can be both kicker and punter. And that's something that Bill Belichick said during the year when asked by a media member. That would be an invaluable skill set to have someone who can be both your kicker and punter that can free up a roster spot on else. His accuracy would have to get better. I think his accuracy was around 75% this year. Granted, 6 of his misses were from 50 yards, but he did make 3 50-yard kicks. So he does have the leg. It's just something that you have Nick Folk under contract the next 2 years. That might be something where he is your full-time punter, but you're trying to develop him as a kicker on the side. So just unlikely, but just something to keep an eye on if he is drafted by the Patriots.
Yep, I think we completely agree. One problem is that he's kind of been out there a little bit too much now, where everyone
Yeah.
knows of him. It's not that kind of hidden gem that we thought he was going to be back in October. We
Yeah.
were, I think, the first people calling
We
for
were.
him to be even drafted, let alone by the Patriots. So I think we have that on our record at least.
Yeah. And then just one thing about him is he was on a team that was a top 25 team, and he was just kicker, punter, and kickoff man, and he was the team MVP. So for a top 25 team, to your MVP to be a kicker and punter is just pretty remarkable.
Yep. All right, moving on, mock drafts.
Yep.
So this we kind of did. We were going to initially do 2 separate ones. One we would do, one the Patriots would do. When I was starting to do it, I was thinking, well, everything I'll do is pretty much what I think the Patriots would do. So, ended up just kind of having just one. So, I think we'll just go by our rounds. And again, we didn't do it the same exact time. So, the different scenarios are different. So, the players that might have been available to me might not have been available to Eric. But just to kind of go round by round why we picked the people we did, where we're at, and go from there.
And then just one thing also is that several of the people I wanted to pick, we both use the PFF draft simulator. Several of the people I wanted to pick isn't included on that, so I drafted other people as placeholders that I'm going to mention.
Okay. Starting round 1, I was able to actually get Jordan Davis, and this is the kind of player I really want them to get. Something that I think they would move up to get if possible. He was still available at 17, so I ended up making a trade with the Chargers. I gave up a first and a fourth. I don't know realistically if that would do it. The PFF allowed it and said it was a fair trade. I would have to actually really look at those kind of trade charts themselves. It may take a first and a third. If that's the case, I still would have done the trade for a first and a third for it. I think Davis is that valuable type of player that would kind of set them up for the future. So I was really happy to get him there.
Yeah, I really want the Patriots to get Jordan Davis. I just don't think, especially given his combine, I don't think there's any way he makes it past 15, let alone up to 21. I think he's now in that 12 to 15 range, probably 13. So I stayed at 21 and I went with a guy I think the Patriots are going to draft, mostly because I have not seen a single mock draft with anyone picking him. Defensive lineman Devontae Wyatt from Georgia. He reminds me a lot Warren. He can play both that 3-4 edge. He could play inside a tackle as well. And I think that's someone that will bolster their defensive line and defense in general.
All right. Pretty interesting. Round 2. Again, I think this would be a pretty solid pick for them. He may last to the 3rd round, but I figured getting him here was a safe bet. John Mechie from Alabama. That's who I got there.
Yeah, for me, I traded back. I traded the 54th pick in the 2nd round to the 49ers for the 61st pick, 3rd round pick at 105, and then a 6th round pick at 221. And then at 61, I had them drafting Chad Muma, linebacker from Wyoming.
All right. So going to the 3rd round at pick 85, I have them drafting tackle Max Mitchell from Louisiana. They'll help kind of solve their tackle needs, and give at least another developmental prospect for them. And hopefully they might have someone lined up for next year.
Yeah, for me, I traded back again. I traded the 85th pick and 221st pick in the 6th round to the Bengals for the 95th pick, the 136th pick in the 4th round, and then a 2023 6th round pick. And then at 95, I drafted Alabama cornerback Jalen Armour Davis.
All right. My next pick isn't until 158, so I'll let you go next because I had traded away that 4th round pick in that Chargers trade.
Yep. So I had pick 105, and I traded that and a 6th round pick to the Chiefs for pick 121 in the 4th round, pick 135 in the 4th round, and pick 233 in the 7th round. And then with pick 121, I have the Patriots drafting punter Matt Araiza from San Diego State. Partially because I don't think there's any way he makes it to the 5th round. Next, pick 127, I have them drafting guard LeCitrus Smith from Virginia Tech. And then at pick 136, I have them picking Matt Waletzko, tackle from North Dakota.
All right. 5th round, 158. I have him drafting Matt Araiza. He was still lasting there, so I had picked him there. I can't fathom drafting a punter in the 4th rounds. I'd rather keep as much as Matt Araiza is very talented, the amount of impact that punters have on the game, the drop off between him and not Zoltan Mesko, Jake Bailey, is I don't think it's worth to waste a 4th round pick on him. I think as long as Bailey gets healthy, and that was the issue, I wouldn't go wasting a 4th round pick. I would take a 5th round pick on him, but I wouldn't go any higher than a 5th.
Well, there's 2 things with that though. Is Bill has drafted Gostkowski. Granted, it's a kicker. He drafted him in the 4th round. I don't think there's a way Matt Araiza makes it to the 5th round. He also is a lefty punter. Mm-hmm. And then another thing is, realistically, not only that, by drafting him, it's going to free up a little over $3 million in cap space, because you'd move on from Jake Bailey, which would free up $4 million in cap space. And then Araiza's salary will be about $700,000. So it's about $3.3 million cap space you're opening up as well. Yeah.
All right.
So that was your 5th pick.
That was my 5th, 158. I've got a 170.
Okay. I have a 158 too, and then a 170. So yep. I'll say my 158, I have them drafting Brown quarterback EJ Perry.
Oh, wow. My 170, I have them picking Alabama running back Brian Robinson Jr. Again, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they pick a running back in this draft, because they always like to be ahead of the game there. They need a receiving running back, and they also might need a running back to replace Damian Harris, because the odds of him re-signing here after this year, I would put very low. Just depending on if he wants to get paid, or is he going to want to take a team-friendly deal. If he wants to take a team-friendly deal, they're going to probably try and sign him to that. But I don't see them extending resources for the running back position, nor would I. So I think they'll just keep drafting running backs year after year and hopefully hitting on them, because it's pretty easy to.
Yep. No, I agree with that. I have them drafting at 170, Texas A&M safety Leon O'Neal Jr.
All right. Going to round 6. I'm at pick 200. Do you have anyone before them?
I do. So I have them trading or sorry, I'm trying to see. Oh, so before I traded 4th round pick 135 and a 7th round pick to the Bengals for pick 174 and a 5th round pick. And then I have them trading pick 174 and a 7th round pick to the Washington Commanders for a 6th round pick 189 and a 2023 6th round pick. And then with the 6th round pick 189, I have them drafting Navy linebacker Diego Faget.
All right.
And then you said you're at 200?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So it's 200. I have them picking guard Joshua Ezeudu from North Carolina.
Okay. My next one is pick 6th-round pick to 11. And I have them drafting quarterback / wide receiver Jared Burnham.
Right. And I was actually the pick beforehand, 6th round, 210. I have them picking safety Sterling Weatherford from Miami.
Okay. My next is 7th round, 238. You got anything before that?
I am done for my draft.
So next, or earlier, I also had them. They had pick 200. They traded that to the Rams for pick 211, which I just stated, which was Jared Burnham, and then 7th-round pick 238. And then with pick 238, I have them drafting wide receiver Slade Bolden from Bama.
I think that might be a solid pick. He's more likely to go undrafted. So
yeah,
7th and undrafted, pretty much the same sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that kind of concludes the draft. I was given a B- for mine. You're probably, I'm guessing, lower based on the pick of Matt Araiza in the 4th round, but
I got a B+, although Matt Araiza was an F in the 4th round.
Yeah, I had Matt Araiza an F in the 5th round. So all right, that concludes kind of the draft. Just quickly, kind of news around the NFL. But this has been a long podcast already, so just kind of briefly touching upon some of the news. I think the biggest ones are just kind of the wide receiver thing that we kind of mentioned before. Deebo Samuel, Brown, McLaughlin. It's just creating a different environment, and it'll be pretty interesting to see what happens. I know PFF, for some reason, I think they're just trying to stir the pot by having the Samuel in the Patriots uniform, saying coming soon ?
Yeah,
I think they're just doing that for clicks. I have no reason to believe, as much as I would like to say whatever the opposite of Evan Lazar is right. Unfortunately, I have to agree with what he says, where I can't fathom Bill giving both draft capital and $30 million for a wide receiver, especially where he doesn't want to do everything that you want him to do, which makes him special. And I can see why he doesn't want to do everything, because if he plays like a running back half the time, he's not going to have an extended career like a wide receiver would be able to have. So it makes sense on his part, but it's also kind of what makes him so valuable. So it's kind of a catch-22 there.
I agree.
Any other news you want to kind of discuss?
No, I think that's pretty much it. The last week and a half hasn't been as newsworthy as our hiatus between our last episode wasn't as big as the previous hiatus. So,
I couldn't agree more. So, NFL draft again is going to be next Thursday on April 28th. So that'll be round 1. Round 2 and 3 is going to be on the 29th, and then I think the draft will finish and conclude on the 30th on the Saturday.
Correct. And then one thing we're going to try and do, granted, we'll have to see how effective it is, but one thing that someone on Twitter, I believe Dan Kelly, said that he does, and it's something that appealed to us, is at every pick, we're going to predict who we think the Patriots are going to draft as well. I know we did our mock draft, but say the Patriots are on the clock at pick 21 and they're going to pick, we're going to tweet out who we think they should pick and going to pick.
Yep. And then we'll definitely have our recaps on Twitter, our immediate recaps. And then the following week, again, you can expect an episode from us kind of detailing what the breakdown is of the draft. Did they get who we thought we wanted? Were there any surprises? did they trade back a million picks and never actually grab anyone of note? So anything wouldn't be surprising with Bill. Is he going to stay the course? Is he going to have as good of a draft as he did last year, or is it going to be one of those drafts from before where it's those kind of crappy players? But from everything that we're hearing on Matt Groh, he kind of is very well respected actually in the Patriots organization for his scouting talent, and had some high praise for him. And even though he doesn't seem like the biggest kind of voice, it does sound like he is able to kind of give his opinion to Bill, where something Caserio was known not to really do too much of and be kind of more of a yes man. That's kind of where things kind of fell off the rails, where if Bill wanted to do something, Caserio would just kind of fall in favor, where Ziegler was a very big voice last year and would let his opinion be known. And Groh, even though he doesn't look like he would be, he also kind of has that and is very well respected. So not that I want Bill kind of refrain from doing anything, but no matter how smart you are, you need someone else giving a different opinion and being able to take that. So it helped with Pioli, and that's what really worked well here, and having those kind of more well-seasoned coaches. So,
and then once Pioli left, they had those bad drafts in 2007, 2008, 2009, where it was more just it was pretty much all yes men. Then once they righted the ship in 2009, 2010, that's when they sort of got back to their relevancy.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, you can't really can't grade a draft until really year 3. We can kind of do it early with last year's draft, but who knows what's going to happen after into the season. Players could regress or what have you, but it looks to be a pretty solid draft. All right. That went really long. So we'll leave it with that. Again, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter at Pat's 300 Level Pod. We look forward to talking to you next week. And again, follow us on Instagram, Twitter. You'll see our reactions, especially on Twitter. Eventually, we'll have a blog. We can actually kind of write these recaps for you. So if you want to read them instead of listen to them on there as well. Thank you.
One day.
Talk to you next time.